Om Shuklam Bharadharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarvabhignopashantaye Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir me sada Yenaksharasamamnayam Adhigamya Maheshwarat Kritsnam Vyakaranam Proktam Tasmai Paninaye Namaha Vakyakaram Vararuchim Bhashyakaram Patanjalim Paninim Sutrakarancha Pranatosmi Munitrayam Vagartha Viva Samprikto Vagartha Pratipattaye Jagatah Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Om. So, welcome to class. So we are doing the basic foundations of Samskritam language. And we study this again because, not because we really like to be grammar scholars, but because we want to access Shastra, right? Because we want to access the scriptures. And the scriptures are important because they're a pramana. They're a way of knowing. They're a way of knowing myself. So I learned Sanskrit so I can access Vedanta, so I can know myself. And I want to know myself because knowing myself is moksha, is freedom. Right? It's a freedom from limitation. So we have to be able to connect all the way from char datu to moksha. That's the idea that we got to keep in our mind. So why are we doing this, right? Otherwise it'll become meaningless. Otherwise it'll become just a exercise. So speaking of char datu, right? That's was the warm up. It's on the back here on the screen. So char datu, right? Notice that first of all, I wrote complete the declension. So declension is not the right word. Complete the conjugation. So thank you to the person who corrected that. Complete the conjugation. Declension is for nouns. Conjugation is for verbs. So before we do that, let's remember our pratyas, our ting pratyas. So you can repeat after me. Ti, taha, anti. Si, taha, tha. Mi, vaha, maha. So this is our pratyas for present tense. So this is something that we can kind of keep as a mantra as we go along. You can even record this on your phone, and then if you're listening while you're doing something else, it's a good way of memorizing it, right? So this is helpful. And then we covered the bu dhatu, right? Bu dhatu, we saw bhavati, bhavataha, bhavanti, bhavasi, bhavataha, bhavatha, bhavami, bhavavaha, bhavamaha. So we saw a few tricks here, right? We saw in pratama purusha, third person, bahuvachanam, plural, we saw bhavanti. So bhava plus anti is not bhavanti, but it's bhavanti, right? Second a eats the first a. That's gunasam. And then in the first uttama purusha, all that whole line of first person, you see that last akara becomes long. So bhavami, bhavavaha, bhavamaha. Okay. So going back to this. So let's see if anyone has written this. So basically, we're just adding these and we're remembering these rules. I'm not gonna write them down on the screen. I'm just gonna do it verbally. So if you've done it, just will follow along, right? So you can do it along with me. So I'm adding char plus pratama purusha ekavachanam plus ti. So char plus ti, charati. Char plus taha, charataha. Because we have to remember that the anga for char dhatu is chara. And chara means to move, to walk. This becomes chal in our colloquial languages, right? Okay, so char, chara. So chara plus ti, charati. Chara plus taha, charataha. Chara plus anti, charanti. So that translates as they all go. Okay, so char plus si, charasi. Char plus taha, charataha. Char plus ta, charata. Then Uttama Purusha, char plus me. Is it charami? No, it's charami. Charami. Charavaha. And charamaha. Okay, so that's, this is how we go through these different conjugations. We're just adding and remembering that there's some small rules in between, but it's basically just adding. So while you're still writing, let's just remember our GPS system, right? So where are we? We're talking about vakyams. Vakyam sentence is made up of padani. Padani is words. Padani, there's two types. There's tingantam and subantam. So tingantam is verb and subantam is noun. Within tingantam, there's dhatuhu plus ting pratyaya. Okay, this should be able to come in your head. Now, there's subantam, noun, and under subantam, there's pratipadikam and sup pratyaya. Okay. Now we're looking at verbs. Within verbs, we're looking at that addition of dhatuhu plus ting pratyaya. So this is the dhatu. The dhatu becomes an anga, and that's added. And then that equation is made between that dhatu and this pratyaya that we're adding. That's what we call a conjugation. Okay. So this was our warm up. We can also see some. We can also see our homework. So we won't cover all of it. I just pulled up a few here so we get the idea. So this is my homework. So we can just look at a few of them, right? Just for the sake of time. And if you have any questions on any specific ones, we can cover that also. So if we just look at the first few, right? This is in the back of the book, page 161. Page 161, this is the homework. So even if you haven't done it, you can open up. But I think you're all brilliant students, so you must have done it. Page 161. So karshanti is what we have, the first example. Karshanti, so when I see this, I have to go from here back to each of the parts. From karshanti, I can look up on the list earlier in the book, and I can find that the anga karsha comes from the dhatu krish. Krish. Let me know if this is too fast or if this is confusing. You can let me know in the private chat. So karsha comes from the Datu krish. Krish is 1P, to draw or to plow. That's third person, plural. Pratama purushaha bahuvachanam. They all draw. So, right? So this is third person, plural. So they all, so it's talking about other people, and there's plural, right? So they all, and then draw or plow. They all draw or they all plow. So they all draw Mickey Mouse. They all plow the field. Our second example, right? Charanti. Charanti, we just saw, right? Chara. Chara, the anga chara comes from the dhatu char. Actually, let's do this example because that's almost the same thing. Let's go to namami. Namami. So I see that ami, and then I separate out this first part. So the first part is the anga, nama. Nama, anga comes from the dhatu nam. 1P, to salute. That's first person, right? Because I see that ami, I see that me. That me tells me it's first person and singular. Okay, is this clear? You give me a thumbs up if it's clear. You have to give me a physical thumbs up. Okay. So first person in Samskritam is uttama purushaha, and then singular is ekavachanam. So if I'm talking about first person, so this guy, singular, there's only one of us. So I salute. I salute. So Ishwaraya namami, Devaya namami, right? I salute, I bow to the Lord. I salute, I bow to Ishwara. The same meaning as namaha. Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop there. Is there any specific ones? Anyone has a question and we can do it together? Okay. This one is a bit funny. Drish, pashyam, pashyati. Pashyati is not from pash dhatu. That's a very common thing you would want to write is pash dhatu. But pashya, that anga comes from drish dhatu. That's just something we got to kind of memorize. So that's earlier in the book, and this will come by practice. We see pashya a lot. So pashya comes from drish. Drish, to see. Third person singing. Okay. Some words. Okay, sorry, I'm getting one. So there's one. Okay, so I think this one, tishtanti. Someone is saying they could not find this one. So let's look at this. Tishtanti. First, my guess is I see this first part is tishta, and I see anti. Okay, now tishta, what I would do is I'll look at, in my book, I'll look at page 32. And on page 32, I get this list. Now I'm looking here and I'm looking for tishta. Okay? So where do we see it? Where do we see it? Where do we see it? We see it all the way down here. Tishta. So tishta comes from sta dhatu, 1P, to stay. So this is a good page to bookmark. Page 32 is always a good page to bookmark, right? Tishta comes from sta dhatu, 1P, to stay. Okay, so we come back. Tishta. So I write sta, 1p, to stay. I see that anti, we know is third person and plural, right? In Sanskrit, that is Pratama Purushaha Bahuvachanam. And I know it's third person, so I'm talking about someone else, and it's plural. So I'll say, they all stay. They all stay in the house. They all stay in the forest, etc. So I would say, Purushaha grihe tishtanti, right? Purushaha, the people, tishtanti, stay, grihe, in the house. There's one more question about, it says ni is ubhayapada. Can you explain that, please? Ubhayapada will cover either this lesson or we'll cover next lesson. So we'll come to that. I know I haven't explained that yet. Okay. Now I'm going to shut this. Okay. If you have any other questions for the homework, you can let me know through email. Also, if you want to submit your homework to me, I will try my best to look at it and let you know if any mistakes are there. Okay. So now we need to come to some more details about verbs, right? So we know we're pros at knowing that a thingantam. Okay, so where is this? Sorry, where am I? I am on page 30. Let me just see. I'm on page 9. Yeah, no, I'm on page 21 of your white book. Page 21 of your white book. This is the workbook, but you don't need to really, you just open the white book, page 21. Okay, you'll see classifications of Datu at the top of the page. Okay, you see classifications of Datu at the top of the page. That's what I'm going to be talking about today. Okay, so we're going a little bit backwards to move forwards. Okay, so a tingantam, a verb, is made up of two things, right? We know it's a dhatuhu, right? A root, and we know we add a ting pratyaya. This verbal suffix, right? So I have a root, a verbal root, and I add a verbal suffix. So now let's talk more in detail. Okay, so the dhatu can be classified in different ways. So that's what's on page 21. The dhatu, the root itself, can be systematically classified to understand it better. So Panini Muni. So Panini Muni is one of the sages who created the system of grammar which we are studying. Now, what Panini did is he took all of these dhatus which were there in the natural language, and he categorized them to make them easier to understand. Now, in the dictionary, he's listed about 2,000 dhatus, right? In the Dhatu Kosha, he's listed about 2,000 dhatus. Now, this 2,000 dhatus can be separated into different ways. So The first is that there's 10 groups of conjugations. There's 10 groups that the Datu is separated into. So the Datu is separated into 10 different groups based on how they conjugate. So that's from first Gana to 10th Gana. So notice I'm writing the word Gana. Murdhaninakara. So Gana means a group. I'm not saying Gana, right? We're not singing anything. What is a Gana, right? Groups. So first group to 10th group. There's 10 different groups, and there's 3 types of dhatus that's separated into 3 types: P, A, and U. Okay? So the first thing we need to understand is this 10 groups of conjugation. So what do I mean by 10 groups of conjugation? So this is a lot of language. I'm going to close this down. I'm just going to make it more simple. So when a dhatu is suffixed to a ting pratyaya, right, to make a verb, when this happens, this dhatu gains the status of angam, right? We've covered this, right? So this dhatu gets a special status. When the dhatu gets married to the ting pratyaya, it goes from bachelor to anga. It goes to angam, right? So now, as it's classified as an anga, it can undergo 10 different processes. Okay, so your marriage can be anywhere from really terrible to all the way to really excellent, and in between there's 10 gradations. Here also, when it gets married, there's 10 different things that can happen to it. 10 different types of processes. So each of that type of change that occurs, so each type of change is a different gana. Okay, so each type of change is a different gana. So we can see this in the chart on page 21. Okay, let me know if I'm going too fast, if you need things to go back up, etc. Okay, so this chart on page 21 kind of just gives us a glimpse of the type of changes. So, for example, in the first gana, when that becomes an anga, when the dhatu becomes an anga, some different changes can occur, right? So in the first gana, something called guna can happen, right? We haven't talked about guna, but it's not so important, but something called guna will happen, and you'll get an akara, right? At the end. This is why we go from char to chara. We added that akara at the end. Char to chara, because we added an akara because it's in the first gana, right? In second gana, there's sometimes guna, sometimes not guna, etc., etc. Third, there's yes and no. Fourth, in fourth, we add a yakara. Fifth, we add a no or nu. Sixth, we add a akara. We don't need to memorize all of these things. I'm just showing that why we have 10 different ganas. Okay? If you understand that there's 10 different groups, that's all we need to know for now. Okay? but each of these have little bit slightly different changes that separate it from each other. And sometimes there's another special change. So for example, in third gana, there's something called reduplication. So like the word jignasa, there's reduplication that nya becomes nya nya, and then it becomes jignya. So jignasa. Okay. Too much information. What I'm trying to say is that there's 10 different groups, right? Now, how this is relevant to us is that when we see dhatus, you get a number, like for example, this says 4, and that first number that you get tells you which gana it is in. So we were seeing in our homework and what we were seeing at the beginning of the class, we were just seeing first gana dhatus, right? 1p, only first gana dhatus. Now let's jump to page 34. Okay, this is page 34. And we're gonna look at fourth gana. Now, if we go back to this chart, right, if we look at fourth gana dhatu is called Devadi gana, huh? We add a yakara to the dhatu to make an anga. So for example, the dhatu us, because us is in the fourth gana, we are going to add a yakara. Right? We're going to add a yakara. And when I add a yakara, the anga becomes asya. Nash. I add akara, your yakara, and it becomes nashya. This is page 34. Page 34. Tush plus yakara, tushya. Nrit plus yakara, nritya. Push plus yakara, pushya. Muh plus yakara, muhya. Shush plus yakara, shushya. Okay? So this gives us a clue that when we're doing these fourth gana dhatus, it's going to be yakara. Now, we're still going to add the same. We're still going to add the same pratyas. You see at the top right of the screen, ti, taha, anti. So let's do a little bit of practice. So I as dhatu. As dhatu is, what is it? Is it 1 or is it 4? We just saw it, it's fourth gana, right? It's 4p. We haven't talked about what the p yet, but we know the fourth means the gana. It means the group. It's in the fourth type of group. It means to throw. Okay, again, the 4p dhatus are on page 34. And then what I'm doing right now is in your workbook. So let's open to your workbook. You can follow along. This is page 19, bottom of page 19 of your workbook. Page 19 of the bottom of your workbook. So I'm working at the top. So I'm adding the dhatuhu is us, 4p, to throw. And I'm gonna skip all of this stuff for right now. And I'm gonna go all the way down here. And I'm gonna see what is the anga. Okay, so can you tell me in the chat box, what is the anga since we know it's fourth gana dhatu? Since it's a fourth gana dhatu, what is the anga? Okay, so I see I see 3 or 4 people typing. Okay, so we see everyone seems to be getting it right. Okay, so that's a gold star for everyone, right? It's like us. Us plus yakara is asya. Asya. Now I'm going to add, I'm going to go through the chart. I'm going to conjugate. Okay, so this is third, second, first. This is singular. This is dual. This is plural. Okay. Now I have asya, and I'm adding, look at the top right, I'm adding ti, right? Asya, ti. I'm adding taha. Okay, try now to look at the top right. I'm giving there as a little help, but try to not look at it. So asya, taha. Okay, you're going to help me with Uttama Purusha, so just get ready for that. Asyanti, so asya plus anti. Second akara eats the first akara, so we get asyanti. Asya si. Then we're just adding again, asya taha and asya ta. Okay, so in the chat, can you tell me what is all the Uttama Purusha? Can you give me the whole line? Uttama Purusha, first person. So what is that whole last line? Can you write it in the chat? So I see Devoji, Rupaji, Mukoji writing it. Urmilaji, yeah, looking good. Shantiji, everyone's looking pretty good. Okay, so let's all write it together. People are looking pretty good. There's some small mistakes, but I think that might be more typing than otherwise. So let's do it. So us, yami, us, yavaha, and then us, yamaha. Okay, so now we only have 1 more minute. What I want to show you is how we translate this, right? So third person singular, asyati. So I would say he throws. They too throw. They all throw. Then you throw, you two throw, you all throw. Then first person, I throw, we two throw, and we all throw. Okay? So that's how we would translate this. What I want you to do for homework is from page 19, 20, 21, and 22 in your workbook. So 19 to 22 in your workbook, do the 4th gana dhatus, all the conjugation. Okay, let's say you're as busy. I know you all are really busy. Let's say you don't have time. Do 1 full page. Do as much as you can. Okay, but the homework is page 19 to 23. Only the 4th gana dhatus. Okay, we'll end there. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Pranamastu. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a 5-minute break, come back at 8:10. I will still be here. I'm just turning off my video. So let me know if you have any questions.